Do all prayers get answered? I worked as a chaplain, and we used to pray a lot. I used to pray a lot with my patients. And oftentimes I saw that those prayers didn't get directly answered. So if I were to answer that in a very basic way, I might say that not all prayers don't get answered. So the question is, why do we pray? So the Kabbalah, the Jewish mysticism, explains that maybe our prayers don't get answered specifically for every specific thing we pray for, but every prayer has an effect, and they never get lost. Rabbi Nachman of Breslov teaches us that. And sometimes our prayers will go up to heaven, go up to the spiritual realm, and they'll connect with other people's prayers and maybe have a positive effect in the world. Sometimes one prayer isn't enough. Maybe multiple prayers accumulate together and they're able to have an effect in our lives. So that's one explanation that's offered. Another explanation that's offered is that when we pray, we're not necessarily praying to have an immediate effect from our prayers in the world or even accumulate in the spiritual realm, but rather we're praying to be heard. We talk about God as Shomea Tfilah. God is the one who listens to prayer. And sometimes when we talk to our friends about things we're worried about, things that we're concerned about, we share with them not so that they can give us an answer, but we just want them to hear us. And God hears our prayers. God is always available. God's always there to listen to us. And that's one explanation for why we pray, is that we speak to God because we want to be heard. And God is always listening. Final explanation is offered by Rabbi Hirsch. He explains that the root of litpalel, to pray, is pei lamed lamed. And he says that's similar to another root, bet lamed lamed, which means balal, and that means to incorporate. So when we pray the silent devotion, we talk about some important values and things that we're interested in. Justice. We're interested in good health. We pray that God would hear our prayer. We pray for the return to Zion. All these values are really important. And when we pray, we are trying to incorporate those values into our spiritual lives. And so it's less for them to be answered, but more to improve us and elevate us in our spirituality. So when we pray, we want to judge whether our prayers were effective or not. Sometimes the litmus test isn't necessarily whether it was answered immediately or not. Sometimes we have to just evaluate, were we brought closer to God through this prayer? Were we spiritually elevated? Are we more connected to the values in the prayer book than we were beforehand? If the answer is yes, then that was a good prayer.